remain intact, untouched, unmolested for 22 months. Colorado law requires 25 months. So when she did what she did to,
Okay, we're live.
Essentially make a download, like you would back up your computer. It doesn't change anything. It's just a backup of whatever's there at the time. She did it before and after, before Dominion employees came out and serviced and fucked up her machine. For all of you in the farming world, you get it, but the rest of you, I'm just helping you to understand how animals are serviced. Okay. So anyway, they did that. And fortunately, Tina had made that copy because, in fact, they did change the data in the machine in violation of federal law and state law, by the way. Now, when the state of Colorado officials and judges and prosecutors and elections and everything came after her, they came after her because the state official didn't want her inside the machine looking at what's going on in violation of what they had demanded her to do. But there was a higher law, and that's federal law. And so there's a constitutional thing where your higher authority is the law of supremacy. Federal laws supersede state laws. And so what Tina did was obey the federal law, which says if she doesn't protect by whatever means necessary the vote information integrity of the original material on the original devices, that she can be prosecuted and put in jail for a year according to federal law. So she wasn't going, state law or federal law, state law or federal law. She chose the federal because that's what the law required her to do. The state's been prosecuting her, and now they did a filing the other day, literally, I think had to be in Monday night and first thing in the morning here, Tuesday, the judge said he's going to deny that she can do this supremacy thing and has to proceed to trial. She has a trial that has been moved back to July, late July, early August. But that's not done because there's going to be some fighting back and forth whether or not that's going to stand. The reality is I think she's very safe on whether or not federal law applies or state law applies in this particular matter. The same thing is going to happen, let's say, in different places, different ways. There's going to be challenges about these states. For example, where Darlene, the state was trying to stop him from doing an investigation, handed over to state authorities where they could have quashed it. He's bypassed him going to Congress. Jim Jordan will most likely start some kind of investigation, and it will be because of the demands from other states, not just Michigan. It'll be multiple states that would be looked at for the way the Dominion operation has been going, and based on information that came out of these texts and emails that's now in the public purview, and more to come. Probably real number 10% of the information that's coming is out right now. It's only just begun. It will not stop. And where you said a minute ago, that you were afraid that they weren't going to, the media wasn't going to cover it. Nobody's going to hear about it. That's why we're talking right now, Nemo. I'm telling you, this is the first puff of smoke. And it's not stopping. It might be a little white puff right now. Soon enough, it'll be a little blacker.
Right,
but my small cloud, and then it will dominate everything. They will not be able to ignore what's going on here, and it won't be that long down the road. Now,
that's what I was going to ask you. My concern is it might be a little too late. I mean, we're already going into the 2024 election. I mean, I'm pretty sure they could just sweep this under the rug or just ignore it for as long as they can until we get to 2024.
Did Brennan say he was coming back today or tomorrow?
That's what it seems like. I mean, am I wrong in saying that?
I guess he's online right now.
I advised him to.
I don't think what I'm saying is too crazy. I think honestly,
I get it. Okay.
Okay,
You're
so
in what I would call a normalcy bias. And everything they pulled off for a couple of decades, and especially the last, 8-9 years, is the way it's just going to keep going. And so let me just put it this way. I don't want to be too cocky. I'll just say, full fucking shit. No way.
I'm just stating the obvious.
Nino, I'm just telling you. No. This is going to continue to go from smoldering to flaming. I'm telling you, Nino, nobody's going to be able to ignore this. You're on the edge right now. Just like I told you, be careful.
All right, Juan, hold on.
How fast it's going to come. It's going to be
okay.
impossible.
So then they just create more distractions, more smoke and mirrors, take us into World War III. I mean, that's where they're heading with all this. I mean, all the stuff that we're seeing right now unraveling with P. Diddy, the bridge. I mean, they're just going to create more fires, light more fires, get our attention pulled away from this. Besides talking to me, who else is going to cover this? I mean, I guess some other podcasters.
No. Look, here's part of what you have to include in that equation. More people voted for Trump and voted for conservatives than voted for this crew that's in office right now. In fact, 49 of the 50 states voted Trump, if you go into real data. And with what's coming and what we have from the various players, you'll actually be able to tell every single county in every single state what the true vote actually was. But we're not going to try and argue that. The reality is that whatever that information was, it was gathered on machines that were not certified. Anybody that thinks that you can proceed with that data that was uncertified on machines that were uncertified, they're certifiable. Not going to happen. It's going to get unwound. It'll be a process. It's going to be brutal. I'm telling you, I get it. It's going to be brutal.
I mean, what tricks are
you're facing a constitutional crisis.
Right,
And
but what cards are they going to play?
Voting for Trump are not going to roll over and just allow the bank robbery.
But they're not going to roll over either. So what cards are they going to play? What hands are they going to play to push this under the rug? Because they're not. I mean, they have the whole system, the DOJ, the whole thing is captured.
Okay. And so here's.
So I guess I'm trying to get you to say.
This is a solid question that you have. I get that. And
so is this going to go military?
I'm not blowing off what you're saying. Hold on, let me ask the question. First off, this is going to be hotly debated. Everybody's going to pick a side. You're probably not going to be able to not have to take a side in this. It's going to be, a huge issue. Why? Because where these people that are currently in office are taking America. They're taking us to the brink of nuclear war. They're taking us to all sorts of calamitous situations. One of the next major things being our currency situation and the markets and your retirement plan and things like that. It's going to get very, very desperate and gripping. And people are going to look at this and go, how did we get here? Well, I can tell you how we got here. We didn't get Trump. We got these insaniacs, these Globalist, who are being puppeted into office. The strings for the puppeteering don't go just to Obama, they go beyond Obama, into this Biden administration and others. So who's pulling strings? Like Putin said, you don't even know the names of the people that are actually controlling America right now. It's not Biden. And they're taking us in this crazy direction. It's going to be harder and harder for people to just let what's happening happen. The normalcy bias to just get along, go along, so you can have your color TV and your radial tires is about to be over with, because you're starting to touch the
I guess
stability of individuals and situations
so
like that.
If everything's captured, who sorts this problem out? The military? How do we take care of this? Because obviously it's going to get really bad before the election. What happens? What happens?
Well,
How
there's
does
two
it
things.
handle?
First off, let's say that Jim Jordan starts investigations. Who
Oh,
holds
that's gonna be
office?
way
Hold on. Hold on. Let me just game it out with you. If Jim Jordan starts investigations over at the House, who are the people that are sitting in and supervising those investigations and interrogating
People
the
that
people
stole
that
our
may be
election.
subpoenaed and looking at the documents? They're people, all of those people in there were voted in every 2 years. So they've all been voted in since 2020. And many of them are multiple terms. So you're going to have the Fox look at the data and tell you, yeah, I got in here on fraudulent data from various vote systems, but I'm here in office, and so now I get to decide things. There's a problem there, but that's who has the ability to do oversight over the court system and the states and electoral systems and all that. The other side of the coin is, let's say that we look at the Supreme Court. Well, the Supreme Court's the one that failed to listen to the Brunson case, looking at who violated their oaths of office to get into office or to stay in office or to do the various things that certified the vote unlawfully, and the Supreme Court wouldn't even hear the case. So what you're saying is valid, Nino. Who's going to get us to truth? And in fact, we have lots of indication that there is people in Homeland Security, at cybersecurity, in Homeland Security, at the three-letter agencies who knew exactly what was going on
The whole
here
system's fucked
and
up.
protected a fraudulent vote system based on what we're seeing and what is being alleged here. So how are you going to get to justice in the system as it is? And will there be criminal referrals or will there be some kind of a situation where the
Listen to
military
this.
Right.
does
So
have
like,
a grip?
like let's say the Brunson case, they didn't even hear that. So are you exhausting all options? So before it goes military to military tribunals, you have
There's two things, Nino.
It's about 10 minutes
What
left.
court is higher than the Supreme Court? And we've discussed this before. The court that actually is higher in authority than the Supreme Court, no.
People's Court.
No.
Military tribunals.
A military tribunal has greater authority because it comes in related to acts of war.
The law of war
Okay. Acts during a
Because
time
we're
of
at
war.
war.
Acts of
That was
the
going to be my
military.
first guess, but I thought you were
Have foreign enemies making war on us.
So military tribunal supersedes the Supreme
military
Court.
set up by the ones
And in
that
fact,
are
there is
in the White
bases
House, right?
for
They
situations.
got rid of most
For
of them.
example,
Not all of them.
No.
the Nuremberg
Yeah, but
trials weren't conducted
Most
by
of them are wrong.
a national court. They were conducted by military courts because of violations of international law and
The Nuremberg
war
trials,
crimes.
the military ran.
So a military court, a tribunal, could very well be called for in treasonous acts and in war crimes, which subverting an election in another country is a war crime. Then the second thing is,
That's a war crime.
above a military court, what's the other court that has even greater authority? And you touched on it a second ago, you aren't using exactly the right terms, but it's the court of public opinion.
Right. That's the one that helps, right? Then that is above military then.
Right. And so it's not so much a people's court, but it's the court of public opinion. As people who voted a certain way in the elections, as more and more information gets out there that shows, I'll be ready to go in about 3-4 minutes. Thanks. I have dinner reservations. People are waiting for me. So give me a second here to just wrap this up. The court of public opinion, the vast majority of Americans, and not a tiny majority of voting Americans, voted conservative, voted for Trump. It was stolen. It was stolen through various cons, including the excuse of the disease that then allowed for this remote voting stuff, mail in. Putin himself said, how did you lose the election in 2020? Well, it was the mail in ballot. And he's absolutely correct, which was fraudulent, violated state laws, things like that. Many states, as was in the Bankster suit, 19 states said the Supreme Court needed to look at that because the states violated their own state law in the way they conducted the elections. So the states that did that, their election data can't be included in the national election. So let me finish something I started a few minutes ago. Let's say theoretically, and there is a basis for this in history here in the United States, that eventually Arizona has to withdraw its electoral college votes.
See, that's what I'm watching.
From the total.
I'm looking for that.
In the 2020 election.
Arizona and other
states
electoral
college
to
votes
start withdrawing their
fraudulently allocated to Biden.
No, they can withdraw it.
Now let's say that there's other states who similarly had programs in their voting machines that were not certified and also ultimately end up having to withdraw their electoral college votes retroactively, going back to 2020. That's a scenario where you can then shift that Trump won the election by default. And by the way, Trump never conceded the election. He never agreed that he lost. And in a situation where, like this, where the contention is because the vote systems were not operated lawfully and were not certifiable, it's as though the election never took place. Therefore, all of that information, we're not even going to argue over it. The machines were not properly calibrated, certified, tested, whatever. All of that information goes out the door. You got to do a revote. Those states that had not properly tested, calibrated the machines, that had programs in the machines that didn't meet federal election procedure laws, it's as those votes in those locations never occurred. The election didn't happen. Forget, you don't even argue, go to court. Who won? Doesn't matter. The election wasn't properly conducted. Doesn't exist legally. It's like they were never there. If they want to do an election now, they got to redo it, do it correctly. In the meantime, those electoral college votes end up getting withdrawn. It's a hell of a fight. Then, in that kind of a scenario, the existing election officials who were in office, they never left office because they're there until a proper election can be held. If, let's say, an earthquake happened or a solar sunspot or something like that, and you couldn't conduct the election properly, they remain the elected representative of the people until a valid election can be done. In a time of war, attack, something like that, they're the last lawfully elected person in that office. So they stay until someone else who's properly representing the people can be elected, and then they pass the baton. Trump never agreed to pass the baton. So in this kind of a scenario, Trump de facto remains the lawful president and commander-in-chief. And because if it's foreign interference, it's an act of war, then he wouldn't come back as the president, although people would say it that way. In reality, he would remain as de facto commander-in-chief and commander-in-chief.
Well, this would all have to transpire in the next 8 months.
Nino, the process has started, and it will go faster than most people can really conceive of. Do not confuse the normal court process. We're already very mature in the process. A lot of these things have ripened, but also because of the issues that have been raised and the way they've been raised, it now becomes an emergency because of election issues. Go to the front line. You can have a murder case. You can have a legal case involving gazillions like that, jury and everything else. When it's an election matter, it goes to the front of the list and it trumps everything else. And in this case, you could have responses and actions that happen very quickly. So don't get into a situation a normalcy bias, where the way it's always happened is the way it's going to happen, because that's not what will apply here. Everybody just needs to take a deep breath, understand that this is coming. I'm giving you forewarning. It's accelerating. Don't confuse with what's been happening with what's about to happen.
Everything is accelerating right now. It looks like. I mean, everything. I mean,
And Nino, let me just say this, because this goes exactly to what your point was. The people that are in power right now are the most dangerous they've ever been, because they're under threat of being removed from power.
Yep.
Which makes them excruciatingly dangerous. They cannot afford to be removed from power, because then they also can be prosecuted for crimes that they may have been involved in, public scrutiny, etc. So to stop the media looking at them, stop the people looking at them, they would do anything to protect their position, including nuclear war. We're in a very, very dangerous moment. And I mentioned to you privately behind the scenes, I believe. I may have been talking with somebody else. I was on the horn about the bridge collapse yesterday for about 4 hours with a number of the experts that are looking at this behind the scenes at a technical level. And there's very disturbing things having to do with spoofing and going into other transportation systems, including aircraft, where we know of numerous not too dissimilar incidences, very well documented, that have happened over the last many months. And the fact that there is no defense in place yet to assist those crews operating in those types of environments, they wouldn't even know that their systems are under attack and being spoofed. So there's stuff that we need to talk about. But for the moment, I've got to go get a bite to eat, and I might not do a show for a day or two, because I have to have a toofy removed that I cracked. And it's funny, Pat Byrne, he had to have a tooth extracted the other day. He's got a little bruise on his cheek, and I have to have mine extracted tomorrow. And so I may not feel like doing a broadcast for a day or two. But anyway, so this might be it for a little bit, Nino. But don't forget, there's your commander-in-chief. And he's coming back. It's going to be amazing. Expect the unexpected. Prayer required. It's a very dangerous moment. But I believe that is the imagery that we will all remember our president by when it finally happens. The Megador in chief is about to happen. That's why we did the coin, and of course the other one, the flourished coin that Jen has over on her site. I think those are going to be amazing things to remember this moment in history by. Election 2020. Election 2020, Nino.
It's not over yet.
Over yet.
All right, Juanito. That's good. Thank you, Juanito.
Yeah, appreciate.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jean-Claude John Missick, and welcome to this episode.
Okay, so, if you get the gist of all of that, the voting machines have approved software in them, and the software that was in them, the approved software, was replaced with unapproved software, and they're easily hackable. There's a whole bunch of requirements that they didn't satisfy with the new unapproved software, and so the end result is that the election in 2020 and the 2022 election, neither one of them happened because they didn't have approved software in the machines. So what I'm looking for is states to start coming out and decertifying the elections. And when that happens, I'm figuring that's probably going to happen this summer. And
Yeah, but won't the ones that certified it be liable because they've certified it?
well,
and
no,
then-
they wouldn't.
Then they want to change their mind.
What happened is there was certified software in the machines, and then it was replaced, and so there was foreign interference. Okay, they got Hunter Biden's laptop like
They
less
got
than a
that
mile
for years
away.
now.
Hunter Biden's laptop was less than a mile away from Dominion Voting Machines head office in Serbia, which goes to the foreign interference in our elections, because Dominion is headquartered in Serbia, and they've got evidence, they've got emails, they've got all sorts of stuff. So that's what he's saying, is the election didn't happen because there was no, the voting machines were not certified, and so therefore everything that went through them was fraudulent.
But these people in the administration is not going to just walk out if they say it
That's
didn't
why
happen.
he said they're the
They
most
just walk
dangerous. They're the most dangerous
Oh.
right now because
Biden even said he would use.
They
use
wanna
nukes
take us-
against people
they
that
want
would
to take
be-
us to nuclear
Yeah.
war.
against
So
us here. He would use them. He said.
of course it would.
He said that like 3 years ago.
So we'll see. Again, it comes down to what I talked about in my book. Is there was elements of the military that asked Trump to run. The entire Trump administration was a giant military psyop. We talked about a psyop right there a minute ago or yesterday. The entire Trump administration was a psyop. It still continues. And so there's probably, I would say there won't be an election in the fall.
Don't. If there is, it will cause a revolt. Whoever wins, you know.
Well,
they will
no,
say,
the voting machines are.
if Trump loses,
You
they're gonna
can't
say-
trust the voting machines, and so I think that the 107 a long time ago, well, not a long time ago, but about a year ago, he said there'd have to be a pause, and so he figured about a 4-year pause, and so Trump will be commander in chief. There'll be a pause while they reorganize things and have establish proper lawful elections that are trusted and done properly. And but meanwhile, it's going to get really, really ugly. It's going to be really ugly. So anyways,
What, 6 months till November?
more about 9 months.
Pardon?
About 9 months, 8 months. This is May,
Yeah.
June, July, August, September, October, November. Yeah, okay, I'll let you have that. 6 months.
6 months.
Yeah. So there's going to be all sorts of shit going down this summer. So we'll see what happens. What I want to do is I'll go through. Brennan, I guess, will be here later. So what I'll do is I'll go through these some criminal complaints this morning, and then this afternoon we'll go through the fake money presentation and talk about that. And or if he wants to talk about something else, since he's kind of like the new kid on the block, we'll talk about whatever he wants to talk about.
You're not live yet, right?
Yeah, we are.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
Can you review a little bit on service?
Sorry?
Process of service, because this ex of mine's been avoiding service, and by the time I get to doing the service by
How are you
publication,
serving it on her?
they just dismiss it.
How are you serving it on her?
What?
How are you serving it on her? Have you got a stale mail address?
My sister said she has it now. I don't.
So why don't you have it? Why can't your sister give it to you?
She just told me like a week ago she had it. And that's why I said, guess what? I'm coming down there.
You can either hire a process server, and they'll find out where she's at. I mean, they're very good.
I didn't know her address till about a week ago.
They can, well, there's ways they can find an address. Okay.
The Attorney General wouldn't give it to me. The Rockport Court will
Yeah,
give
well,
it
they
to
may
them.
not give it to you, but they'll give it to a process server. So, but it'll cost you $100 to get a process server.
She's
150.
getting $850 a month right now. I mean,
Well, so what my point is that if you're having trouble serving somebody, then I would just hire a process server, and they have access to records that most people don't have access to. They can find judges, and so believe me, there's a friend of mine that knows a process server in New York, and he can get judge's address. And normally, I mean, nobody can get a judge's address, and he can get it. The process servers have access to that stuff, and so, or you can hire the county sheriff. They have access to it too. Okay, the county sheriff will effect service for you, and so again, he's going to be about the same price as a process server. The county sheriff is going to be a high-end process server. You can hire the county sheriff to effect service for you.
yeah,
And
it was hard to do this stuff out of state. You know what I'm saying? It was.
well, you just hire the local county sheriff, or hire a process server, and you can find them online.
I wasn't sure where she was.
If you want to, if you all you need to know is the city.
I didn't even have that.
But anyways, so but you have to. That's what I do. Is well, first of all, I usually just do certified mail, but if I have trouble serving somebody, then I'll do registered mail. And if I still have trouble, then I'll hire a process server, and that's the most expensive. That'll cost $100. Whereas if you do certified mail, it'll cost you $10. And the clerks, even at the courts, have told me that they do certified mail all the time. So that's why I just do certified mail, because it's the cheapest. But if you have trouble effecting service, then I just I'll hire a process server, and they'll find them. I guarantee you. Anyways,
Okay.
This is a criminal complaint. This is a Bankster one, and in Texas, if you want to, for your criminal complaints, it has to have, this is a requirement. Okay, so you have to say in the name and by the authority of the state of Texas. Some states have a requirement, and so I usually just use something like that. And what I do is I'll look up, usually it'll be under their rules of criminal procedure. It might be for an indictment or something like that, but it's got to start with in the name and by the authority of the state of Texas, any criminal complaint. And so it always, that's how I start it. This one is not going to be filed into a court case. So otherwise I'd have the court header on here. But this one won't be filed into a court case. This one is a Bankster's. So I'll send it to the FBI. I'll send it to the Provost Marshal General. And with the banks, their regulatory authority is the controller of the currency. So I send it to the controller of the currency. I'll show you one in a minute that I'm going to do with, I have with Toyota. It's in that pile right there. Toyota is not a bank. They have a different regulatory authority. And so you have to understand who the regulatory authorities are, and make sure they get, copies. And so, and the crimes that they can do are different. This one here is bank. So banks can do different crimes than regular finance companies. And we'll talk about that. So you gotta, again, you gotta use their codes against them. It's all martial law. And so, this Mayo A. Shattuck is on the board of directors for Capital One Bank. And now, if he was a lawyer, if I knew he was a lawyer, I'd say he was a bar member. And all bar members are definitely deemed to know the law. But I just say he's deemed to know the law because he's on the board of directors. And this is in Texas, so this may or may not apply. But I put it in there. It's like throwing mud against a wall. You never know what's going to stick, And so knows that properly applying facts to the law is not discretionary. And that applies actually more to judges. But I always throw it in there. So I have a reason to believe and do believe that Mayo A. Shattuck is making false entries in their books and records in violation of 18 U.S.C. 1005. Okay? Bank entries, reports, and transactions. Whoever being an officer, director, agent, employee of a Federal Reserve Bank, member bank, depository institution, okay? Whoever without such authority makes, draws, issues, puts forth, or assigns any certificate of deposit, draft, order, bill of exchange, acceptance, note, debenture, bond. So it's basically talking about false entries. And so, I mean, you could read the whole thing. I put the whole thing down here and underline the relevant parts. Because all banks are instrumentalities of Congress, and that's true, they are. United States means an instrumentality of the United States under 28 U.S.C. Section 3002. Mayo A. Shattuck is required to know that the chief executive officer and board of directors of any corporation are personally responsible in their private capacity for everything the corporation does. And so I basically lay a foundation and go through and explain it all, lay it step by point, okay? So that's point 4, point 3. So the statements are actually quite small, but I always put stuff in there to support it. Just because I don't want them, the way I look at it, and I make a separate criminal complaint for every crime, even though I might list all of the crimes in one criminal complaint. This one is for false entries, bank entries, reports, and transactions. Okay, so this one is a violation of 18 U.S.C. 1005. And there's going to be, there's others that I made that'll be other crimes. And what I do when I do this is I basically tell a story. And then once I have the story the way I want it, then I'll just paste it all in. It's copy and paste. I'll paste the whole thing in there, except that the next one might be wire fraud. Okay. And so then up at the top, instead of right here, paragraph 3, it won't have bank entries, reports, and transactions. It'll have wire fraud and the 18 U.S.C. 1343, which is the wire fraud code that they use. Okay. And I'll explain that, but everything else will be the same. And this bank entries, reports, and transactions will probably be listed in it somewhere down there too. So I list them all there, but so I want to make it so each criminal complaint stands on its own, and anybody can take that one criminal complaint and go and talk to whoever and have everything he needs. You see what I'm saying? And so. And then there'll be another criminal complaint for wire fraud. So anyways, so I try and babysit them as much as I can. You know what I mean? It's got to be in writing. If you don't say it, then it's not said. And so we're required to know that 12 U.S.C. 411 Federal Reserve notes are for the purpose of making advances to banks and no other purpose are authorized, which is codified from the Gold Reserve Act of 1934. And this is the Gold Reserve Act of 1934, 48 Stat 344, which means Federal Reserve notes are legal tender in the government of the United States for the Federal Reserve banks and for no other purpose are authorized. Is required to know that Modern Money Mechanics was published by the Federal Reserve Bank in Chicago in 1961. And on page 2, it says the money creation process takes place principally through transactions accounts. And on page 6, it says, of course, they do not really pay out loans from the money they receive as deposits. If they did this, no additional money would be created. What they do when they make loans is to accept promissory notes in exchange for the credit to the borrower's transaction account. And then Mayo A. Shattuck is required to know the Federal Reserve notes and promissory notes and bank notes are negotiable instrument law, which falls under Roman law, which falls under the private international law called the United States Uniform Commercial Code. Okay, so in the United States, it's called the Uniform Commercial Code, and in Texas, it's known as the Texas Business and Commerce Code, which is governed by UNIDROIT, okay, which is the International Institute for the Unification of Private Law, which is part of the Hague Convention on Private International Law. and the United States is acceded to the Unidroit statute, which is called the Texas Business and Commerce Code, and all changes flow down from Unidroit, and 64 other countries have also acceded to it, including Canada. And the Supreme Court of Canada has said, and that's why I go through all of that, I want to tie in Canada, because then I can show that this Supreme Court of Canada court citation is relevant, okay? And so, and what it says is, what is said to be an unconditional promise to pay a certain sum of money is itself money. The words on it face of the paper money will pay to the bearer on demand cannot alter its character as money and turn it into a different document which calls for the payment of money. Therefore, a promissory note is itself money, and Capital One Bank was paid when I signed the credit card slip. You see what I'm saying? And so I basically do all this stuff to lay a foundation. Mailway Shudick is required to know that it's impossible to pay a debt with a debt. Say Brown versus Franchise Tax Board, the absolute best that can be done with Federal Reserve notes is discharge debt with limited liability. On or about 13th of October 2023, I served an attempted discharge of alleged debt for Capital One's Cabela's Classic card. See, there's two credit cards with Capital One. So there's the Cabela's Classic and the oh, this both says the Cabela's. Yeah, so the other one's not actually a Cabela's Classic, but ending in 1344. That one is just a classic card, I think. I can't remember. I went and that's an error there. Okay.
To help me follow, Glenn, before you start reading, say number 12, number 13, number 10. That'll help me because you're just reading, and I don't know where you are when I'm looking. So that might be the same. It's just a small thing that'll help.
Sorry?
When you're going to make a comment, say number 10.
Okay.
Because you say on or about, but if you would have said number 10, because everything's on or about, and I'm trying to
Yeah, there's four of them on or about. Okay, so number 9 talks about on or about as Cabela's Classic.
Thank you.
And number 10 talks about Cabela's Classic, and that's an error. So the ending in 3804 is the Cabela's Classic. Actually, that's Cabela's Classic. The other one, 1344, is a different kind of a credit card. It was Capital One, though, but it wasn't Cabela's Classic. Anyways, so I served on them. So there's two of them. They're both the same thing. I should have changed that. That was an error. Anyways, on or about 25th of October, I received a letter from Capital One stating the account ending in 1344 was closed because of, and then paragraph 12, that's the same thing except in paragraph 11 is 1344, and in paragraph 12 is 3804, which is this one. The 3804 is Cabela's Classic. That one actually had a $5,000 credit limit, by the way, and this one had a $3,000 credit limit. Anyways, both letters stated that I was still responsible for the balance owing. Because of their repeated demands for payments in their letter and also on their billing statement, and because it's impossible to pay a debt with a debt, see Brown versus Franchise Tax Board, and the Federal Reserve notes are evidence of the debt of the United States. This is 18 U.S.C. Section 8, says that Federal Reserve notes are evidence of the debt of the United States. And because the absolute best that can be done with the Federal Reserve note is discharge debt with limited liability, therefore I needed to know what to use to lawfully pay this alleged debt, which is why I sent them my Form 1020 for their attorneys to answer with a specie of payment. Okay? And then paragraph 15, on or about the 4th of December, I sent regular payment address and to Thomas Hall, who was the general counsel. Okay? I always, if I can, I'm going to invite their lawyer. Okay? Because the lawyer is deemed to know the law. And so then I have the certified mail numbers. With 15 days to respond, they failed to respond, a true copy of which is attached here too. Paragraph 16, on or about 30th of December, I served a notice of default and opportunity to cure. So that's actually well over 15 days. But I like to give them plenty of opportunity to come back and ask for more time. I want to bend over backwards for them, right? Anyways, I sent a notice of default and opportunity to cure to the regular address in Thomas Hall, General Counsel, with 5 days to respond with a specie of payment and a statement that their failure to respond required to the alleged debt to be discharged under the Texas Business and Commerce Code 3.603, and they failed to respond. True copy of which is attached here too. On or about 30th of January, I served the final notice of default, so that's like a whole month later. I served, and that's all they had was 5 days, so I give them lots of time. I served the final notice of default by the regular payment address and to Thomas Hall, the General Counsel, this is paragraph 17, with a statement that their failure to respond meant that I owed nothing, and the Texas Business and Commerce Code 3.603 required the alleged debt to be discharged. Mayo Shattuck failed to discharge the alleged debt as they're required to do under the Texas Business and Commerce Code. Mayo Shattuck and his board of directors are creating false and fictitious bank records in support of their criminal enterprise as evidenced herein, right? And that's it. It's 4 pages.
That's it.
Huh?
You're saying that's it, but it's a lot to me.
It's 4 pages.
Whoa.
So here's the Capital One, the letter to Capital One. This is how I tried to discharge it initially. See here? It's 1344. So there's 2 accounts, 13044, and so this one is classic. I think it's a classic. Anyways, and I notice it's the minor estate. Okay, that's the minor estate. Well, that's the only thing they address is the minor estate. So, anyways, accepted for deposit, payable to bearer, 4,000. So I even overpaid it. Didn't work. They didn't like it, and I endorsed it here. Accepted endorsement. Accepted for deposit. Anyways, and then this is the letter saying we're closing this account because of activity on this or another account is not consistent with our expectations.
Yeah.
The expectation was what? Meaning, I mean, what was your action? You failed to continue to pay the interest, or you just went ahead and just said, "Let me just do this"?
Well, because they want me just to discharge the debt so they can leverage it. Okay, think about it. This actually pays it. Accepted for deposit. Okay, so I turned that into a deposit slip. See here, accepted for deposit, paid to bearer. I sent them back to them, and so they could have taken that money from the Sista KV trust account and paid it off. That was the whole idea. And but you know they wanted me to. They didn't want me to do that. So, anyways, so that's 1344, and then this one is the 3804 account. And that one's got a $5,000 balance. And it's the same thing. Accepted for deposit, payable to bearer, $7,000. So I overpaid it even. Restricted and dormant, accepted for deposit, payable to bearer without recourse. And this is their letter. We're closing this account. So then this is the final notice of default I sent them with the Form 1020, an account ending in 1344. Your attorneys failed to provide a method of payment on a Form 1020 that was served on you on or about 11 December, and your attorneys failed to respond to the notice of default and opportunity to cure that was served on you on or about 10 January. I have attached a copy for your reference. This is grieving me great evidence against you and your intent to engage in multiple felonies, false and fictitious bank records, 18 U.S.C. 1005. See, I notified him. I told him what was going to happen. Conspiracy, false and fictitious entries, 18 U.S.C. 2073. Conspiracy to threaten, intimidate, coerce, injure me in the free exercise of my rights, 18 U.S.C. 241. Mail fraud, wire fraud, and more. This is an effort to pay an alleged debt. In your failure to respond, you have demonstrated that I owe you nothing, and you're required to discharge the alleged debt under your Uniform Commercial Code 3.603. And so then this is, okay, so that was sent by 1754 and 1761. We'll do the last 4 digits on the certified mail. There's 1764, and then the chief counsel got it by 1761. Notice of default and opportunity to cure. You're in default of providing a method of payment, and you're notified that your attorneys have failed to complete this form that was served on you on or about 11 December 2023. I've attached a copy for your reference. This has given me great evidence against you. Same stuff, right? Have a great day.
I'm sure they did.
So this is the one to the regular billing address, and this is the one to the general counsel. And this is the Form 1020. This is Kerry Zolman's invention, and it's brilliant, I tell you. And I love it because it's 2 pages. It just cuts right to the chase, and they'll never answer. Anyways, this is the Form 1020. A card number ending in 1344, Capital One, a private corporation, December 4th, 2023. And so it says here, an attorney or a private corporation is assumed to know the law. It's the obligation of an attorney or a private corporation to see that any alleged fines, fees, charges, etc., lawfully and correctly and completely are collected lawfully, correctly, and completely. In order to correctly, quote, pay this alleged fines, fees, charges, etc., the minor estate requires the following information from the attorneys at Capital One. Complete this form and return it to the address you have on file to enable the minor estate to understand and lawfully comply with the alleged fines, fees, charges, etc. This form raises formal questions with regards to this alleged fines, fees, charges, etc., that only your attorneys can answer. Under the caption, New Statement Balance, what does the number 2806.34 refer to? Check 1. Obligations to the United States government, national bank currency, bonds, certificates of indebtedness, Federal Reserve notes, bills, or other. Please explain. Under the caption, Minimum Payment Due, what does the number 241 refer to? Obligations to the United States government, national bank currency, bonds, certificates of indebtedness, Federal Reserve notes, bills, or other. And does, please explain. Does the statement refer to consideration of obligations or other securities of the United States directly or indirectly? Check 1. And does the computation of this alleged account summary require consideration of obligations or other securities of the United States directly or indirectly? Check 1. Most individuals can complete this form in 3 minutes. You're required by law, UCC 3-104 and 3-115, to complete this form before any payment may be made. As a private corporation, you're assumed to know the law and not misleading. You made several statements in your statement that the minor estate owes something to someone. It's your obligation to answer the foregoing questions on Form 1020, or a default will be issued by the minor estate against Capital One and a private corporation for trying to mislead the minor estate by asking the minor estate for something that he doesn't know. Or you should know that that something is. So as attorneys, you're assumed to know the law. As an attorney at Capital One, a private corporation, I've read the foregoing Form 1020 and know it to be true, correct, complete, not misleading in any way. I declare under penalty of perjury the foregoing is true and correct. They'll never fill it out. Executed on this day, printed name, sign, bar number, bar membership state. They'll never fill it out. This Form 1020 must be completed and returned within 15 days, mailing, delivery, and filing. Failure to complete and return this Form 1020 in 15 days will result in a default being prepared for Capital One based upon the information the minor estate has, and the fact that your admittance that the fines, fees, charges was provided to the minor estate was an error in violation of the law, and no other mailing will be needed. Failure to provide the minor estate with requested information at the time allowed. The attorneys at Capital One are admitting by their silence that Capital One is dishonest. Estoppel arises where person is under duty to another to speak, or failure to speak is inconsistent with honest dealings. Silence by Capital One will be treated by the minor estate that fees, fines, charges, etc. as dishonest dealings, and balance is paid in full. And that's it, right? And there's a copy of the statement. And then the next one is that's the first certified mail there. And then the final notice of default in account 3804. I'll be back in a second. It's one thing about that T in one end and out the other.
Mm-hmm. I like it when we're looking at stuff that's recent, January 2024.
Does he have a copy of the 1020 form?
Yeah, it was there. He sent a copy.
Okay.
There was one that he showed.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Does he have that anywhere?
I don't know.
Yeah, you go to the stream and just. Do you have a 1020 somewhere?
I can email you one.
Don't worry about it. I can copy it off the stream, right? When I play back.
I have it. If you go on my videos, I got videos on Form 1020.
Yeah, okay, well.
And
I
can show you where you can get it.
I'm not going to need it anytime real soon, so
It's good to know where to get it. You can get it online.
It's amazing.
You can get it online.
Okay.
Anyways, there's the rest of it. This is the Form 1020 for the final notice of default for the account ending in 3804. Okay, so here we go. Okay, this is my website. So if you go to, let's go back here.
I'll find another word.
Well, I want to show everybody else too.
Do before I get into this stuff.
I want to show everybody else too. Yeah. Okay, this is my website. This is everybody else is looking at this too. Okay, I want to show everybody else. So if you want to find the Form 1020 form, this is my website. It's sovereigntyinternational.fyi, right? You go to my website right here. You go to the free videos. Watch free videos. And you go to, scroll down here. They're organized by categories. Form 1020, right here. Okay. There's also another one, Form 1020 successes. I think those ones are under the NorthEast private information share videos. Let's go and find that. So I have NorthEast private information shares. There's Form 1020 successes. Okay. But if you go to, let's go here first. Here's Form 1020. This is a YouTube video. It'll take you to a YouTube video. See? You're on YouTube now. So then what you do is you click on more here. It's in the show notes, right? Dismiss that. It's in the show notes. and you just scroll down here. Oh, look at that. The 41020 final default. And the 41020 default and opportunity to cure. Oh, look at that. And the 41020. Those are Google Drive. That's on Google Drive, right?
My eyes have seen it.
So there's a bunch of other ones here too. Affidavit of complaint, motion just per disclosure, notice of void judgment. There's a bunch of them here. And it depends on the video. Some videos I upload or put different links there. Depends on the video, okay? But I almost always, on the newer videos, I'll put the PowerPoint presentation, or it could be the Word files. Like with this one, I might put the Word file for this criminal complaint. I might not. It's hard to say. With this one, when I get settled and start fixing things, I might put a link to the Word file. We'll see. But so this is the criminal complaint. And what I do is I'll send it to the FBI, I'll send it to the Provost Marshal General, and I'll send it to the controller of the currency. And what I do, if you notice here, I scanned it up as a color copy. And I print it off as a color document. So then you really can't tell if it's an original or a copy, because I always sign them in red ink. Okay. I scan them up as a color, and I print it off in color. So you can't tell if it's a copy or an original. And I'll send one to the FBI, I'll send one to the Provost Marshal General in Washington, D.C., and I'll send one to the controller of the currency. This is for a bank. So they're regulatory authorities, the controller of the currency. And a lot of times, if you do a search online, you can find out the deputy controller that takes care of Capital One Bank. And if you can, then that's great. Otherwise, you just send it to the regular address. A lot of times you can find the deputy controller.
And just for the purpose of the public that's listening, or the private that's listening, is it true that you do not alert each of the notified parties that you're sent? You don't tell them?
No, yeah, I never tell them. I never tell
Who you sent what?
I never tell the FBI I sent one to the other guys. I'll never tell the controller of the currency I sent one to the FBI. It's just none of their business. Okay, I'll send it to whoever I decide. And the idea being is I want a bunch of people going down there and asking questions, snooping around. You see what I'm saying? And, so anyways.
Are they on a 6-month lag time or more? Is that part of our, do we know?
I have no idea. I mean, they're just going to get to it when they get to it. But it's amazing how many times, and it depends. I'll file criminal complaints over the cops giving me an illegal lane change. Like I did that last, probably July or August, against the mayor and the city of Bedford and the entire city council, chief of police. And that was in July or August. I can't remember. Anyways, but I can tell you, I did a YouTube video about it. In September, they had a city council meeting. They send out a newsletter every month. And a friend of mine lives in Bedford, so he gets the newsletter. And in the newsletter, it said that the city council had their meeting in September, And the mayor showed up and announced he was resigning immediately, effective the next day.
Why do you suppose he did that?
Well, I think it was because I filed those felony criminal complaints, but they never tell me. They never tell me.
But, so whether he resigns or not, that doesn't stop the criminal complaint. So why wouldn't he maintain his office for protection? They need to hear what I just said or whatever anyway.
I don't know. My attitude is that one of the things that happened is that Bedford, I've been going around and around with them. And I went and sent, this was back 2 or 3 years ago, I sent their chief of police, who was at the time, his name was Jeff Gibson, a registered letter. It was my standard notice and demands, right? I accept your oath of office. If you think you're representing me, you're fired. You know, it's like 20 pages. And what happened is about 9 months later, one of his hired thugs arrested me and did all sorts of shit. So then I sent him a nastygram. And, you know, the nastygram starts off, I know, you know, and I both know you'll never accept your oath of office, so fuck your oath, you lying, perjuring motherfucking son of a bitch. You know what I mean? Second paragraph says, if you or your pigs want a piece of me, just name a date, time, and location. I'll come armed. We'll settle it for once and for all, you lying, perjuring motherfucking son of a bitch. Third paragraph says, I know you'll never take me up on that because you're cowards. The first thing you want to do is make sure I'm unarmed so I can't defend myself, you lying, perjuring motherfucking son of a bitch. And so it's like 20 pages of that, right? And so and when I do it, when I do the nastygram, I send a copy to, it's right up at the very top on the front. Copy goes to the FBI, copy goes to the U.S. attorney, copy goes to the state police. Everybody knows everybody else is getting a copy, right? And one copy went to Donald Trump because he was president at the time. And anyways, so what happened is that mayor that resigned last September, okay, Darren knows him. They were out for lunch one day, and the mayor's telling him, oh, yeah, the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement raided the Bedford Police Department and fired everybody in there. I think it was because of what I did. And so it was that mayor. He knew exactly what was going on. And so it's the same guy, you know, then all of a sudden he resigns, you know. I think that because I put it in the criminal complaint.
So in that case, you did notify other agencies.
Of course.
Sometimes you don't, though.
When I do the nastygrams, I notify everybody and their brother, okay? And when I do the criminal complaints, I never notify anybody else.
So a nastygram is just an expression of yours.
It's I call it a nastygram because it's got all sorts of 4-letter words in it and that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
But what are you asking for, or what are you reporting?
At the very end, it says something like I don't know. We can pull it up and look at it if you want.
Okay, because that it would help people follow.
Yeah. It's basically, yeah, we can pull one up. Let me see.
And your purpose for filing the nastygram?
Let off some steam.
Yeah. Well, but I send it the nastygrams. See, the first one, the notice and demand, I send by registered mail, and that's expensive, you know. And he actually signed for it. Gibson signed for it. I got his signature on the green card. He went down to the post office and signed for the damn thing. And so I got his signature. This is Jeff Gibson, you know, written right across the green card. And he got fired along with all the rest of them, and he's, you know, out of there now. But so
where do you file the criminal complaint?
well, I just told you.
No, you say you send copies, but where's the complaint filed?
I just told you. I call it filing.
Okay.
But I just send
You're
a copy
sending
to
like a notice of.
It's the whole fucking criminal complaint. It's not a notice. It's the whole criminal complaint. I sent it to the FBI. I sent it to the state police. I sent it to the Provost Marshal General in Washington, D.C. If it's Bankster related, I'll send it to the controller of the currency. If it's a finance company, they have a separate regulatory authority. I'll send it to them. I never tell them that the other guys got one or anything like that. The nastygram, they all see at the top that everybody else got one.
So the criminal complaints is because they're investigatory agencies. They're responsible for
That's right.
investigating crimes.
That's right.
Why he's sending the criminal complaint.
That's right. And I've had people actually be complaining about election fraud, and I've had investigators go to them and tell them, give us a crime, tell us a crime that they're committing, and we'll go investigate it. They want that shit. I'm telling you. And they'll investigate it. And they do. But you got to spell it out in their words. It's got to be something in their words that they can understand and lay it out systematically on what's going on and build a case. They have people that are hired. I've had people from the county sheriff's office, from the state police that have gone and seen people I know, and they would say, look, what crime are they committing? I want to know because I'll go investigate it. We'll investigate it.
Don't just tell us they're committing a crime. Tell us what they're doing and show us evidence, and we'll go ahead.
Exactly. Exactly. Build a case against them.
Give us cause to investigate.
Exactly. They want it. They're, they get paid to do that stuff. So anyways, and it's like throwing mud against a wall. You never know what's going to stick. Right?
I'm so used to filing like a federal court a criminal complaint, where you're just going to the agencies that investigate. Showing
I can use them as evidence. Like what I'll do, another thing I do is a lot of times I'll file them into a case. Like, for example, they sued me over property taxes. Okay. Montague County sued me. Actually, it was Bowie Independent School District. Okay. And they sued me over property taxes. And I filed over 100 criminal complaints into the case. Put the heading on it and all that stuff.
yeah, that's on their case.
Yeah.
It's just like evidence. Okay.
Yeah.
That's something they filed, but where did they file it?
I don't know. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit.
Answer, you had to send it to where they filed it, no?
I don't know what you're talking about. What are you talking about?
You get this complaint from them. They filed it against you.
They filed a lawsuit.
So you have
It's a lawsuit filed into court. And the lawsuit has a heading up at the top. It says 97th District Court, cause number whatever.
So you're
I just make up criminal complaints, 97th District Court, cause number whatever, and I file them into the fucking case.
to the case where their complaint is.
That's right.
The court where their complaint is.
That's right.
Okay.
I mean, I can show you some if you want to see them.
But when you're on your own, just filing against someone else, you're not filing in a court anywhere. You're going to the agency that investigates.
This one,
like the FBI.
this one didn't go into a court because there's no court case related to it. Okay, this one I just sent a copy to the FBI, but I also do them. I'll show you some I filed into a case. Oh, I didn't, okay. Okay. Some of them I filed into the case and some of them I just, oh, I bet you I got this one filed into that case. Damn, I didn't. There we go. Tampering with a government record. This was against this Delane Carter as an attorney. Conspiring with these other, some of them are lawyers. That's the tax assessor collector. That's the county attorney. That's the county clerk, and that's the county treasurer, and the Bowie Independent School District Board of Trustees. I have reason to believe and do believe. Oh, hold it now. Let's make sure that everybody can see this. Yeah. Okay. So let's start it over. This one I filed into the case, right?
So
It's
they
got the
sued you
case
for-
number.
They sued you for taxes.
They sued me for property taxes,
Okay.
and I filed this into the case. I filed over 100 criminal complaints into the case, and I have reason to believe, right? You got to use that phrase. This is a phrase, and that's all you have to say. I have reason to believe and do believe. That's all you need. Okay. That Delane Carter engaged in tampering with my rights under a government record by making false entries in their books and records, by claiming that I, a man, have income, which is corporate profits, making false and fictitious entries that I'm a U.S. citizen, false and fictitious entries that I hold this land as an estate under for their Roman cult Sistike usufruct, making false and fictitious entries by unlawfully and illegally rendering my land for taxation, to wrongfully issue municipal bonds using my land as collateral under 17 Code of Federal Regulations. I have reason to do believe that he's making false and fictitious entries in their books and records. Okay, and this is Texas Penal Code 3710, tampering with a government record, because I brought forward all the rights and privileges of the land patent. But it's also okay. I bring up that a corporation doesn't have standing to say anything to any man. Yeah, that one was tampering with a government record, because it's a land patent. I brought forward all the rights and privileges of the land patent.
And they ignored that.
Well, they did for the lawsuit, but let me finish what happened. But anyway, so this is 48 pages. So let's see how long it is. Page 5, because there's evidence attached to this thing. 6. Well, there's quite a bit here. There's a total of 48 pages, but you would think that some of it's evidence. 10, 12. Yeah, right. Okay, so it's 15 pages of actual criminal complaint, and the rest of it's evidence. So here's their final notice before suit, right? I've recommended to my client that a lawsuit be filed against you seeking to foreclose for the tax lien, the amount tax shown. And anyway, so that's evidence that I attached. So the actual criminal complaint here. So I know it's only 15 pages. Okay, so we'll go back. False entries in government records and tampering with a government record. Okay, because I brought forward all the rights and privileges of the land patent. So this is 18 U.S.C. 2073, false entries. Whoever being a officer, clerk, agent, or other employee of the United States or any of its agencies charged with keeping accounts or records of any kind with intent to deceive, mislead, injure, defraud, makes any such account or record any false or fictitious entry or record of any matter relating to or connected with his duties. Whoever being a clerk, agent, or employee of the United States or any of its agencies. Anyways, in conspiracy with his bar member buddies, that is the these are all attorneys right here. These are all attorneys that were with Purdue, Brandon Fielder. That's the lawsuit, the company, the law firm that sued me. Actually, she was the ringleader right here. And this is the county tax assessor collector. This is the county attorney. See, what I did is I sent them, again, you have to go on the attack. So I sent them a notice and demand up front. And that notice and demand laid the foundation for these felony criminal complaints.
By their non-response.
Yeah. Well, I told them in the notice and demand that produce a bona fide contract or you're going to be engaged in all these felonies. And they didn't produce a bona fide contract, so they intended to be engaged in all these felonies.
That was through silence.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they could have satisfied you by just saying, "You're right. Sorry about that. No tax."
Could have. Yeah.
That's all they had to do.
That's right.
And they refused.
That's right. Anyways, so Texas is under a military occupation. And I can show you that letter that I sent them. It's actually, what I'll do is, this is the affidavit of service, okay, for the criminal complaints. For one of them, I sent 2 boxes of criminal complaints. So let's add this so people can see it. Yeah. So this is the affidavit of service, right? I sent 2 boxes of criminal complaints. I sent one, says right here, to the 97 District Court, serve the original to the court, and then a copy to the respondents below. And there'll be, so there's 42, there's 44 of them in this box. Sent one to the liar. So this is a certificate of service. Okay. So there's, yeah. Official oppression, one of the liars, official oppression, another one of the liars, official oppression, violating rights and immunities under color of law, and one for each of the 4 liars. Those are the liars that I think actually were named on the lawsuit, but I'm not sure. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. Conspiracy to threaten, coerce, injure, intimidate me in the free exercise of my rights under color of law. And that's all the liars. Perjury of oath, tampering with a government record and false entries of government records. Sale into involuntary servitude. They're forcing me to work for them for nothing. Peonage. And then this is the school board, okay, the board of trustees. That there is the Jennifer Finoglio was the treasurer for the county. Obstructing the force of the free exercise of religious beliefs, assaulting me with their satanic religious ceremony. That's one box. This is a box. It was one of those boxes right there. Anyways, so then what I did is demand to disqualify the judge. Yep. so everybody can see it. This is the demand to disqualify the judge. Randy Kelton suggested I do it, and he even told me where I could get one that I could use as a template. Now, he always calls it a motion because he's strictly statutory, and I always call it demand because I'm one of the people, right? So I demand. Anyways, 78 affidavits of criminal complaint were filed into this case on or about 27th of February and on or about 14th of March. True copies of the certificate of service are attached here too, all of each of which are incorporated herein by reference in entirety. Your Texas Code of Criminal Procedure, Article 15.09, requires that a warrant for each criminal complaint be issued. The issue of warrants fails to be discretionary and is a ministerial duty and mandatory for any magistrate. Please find attached a copy of the court's oath of office and anti-bribery statement. The previous judge recused himself, and now there's a different judge, and the new judge has failed to issue warrants for the arrest of those named criminal complaints, which is a breach of trust, perjury of oath, and demonstrates that the judge fails to be neutral and unbiased, and the judge fails to be in good behavior as required by the supreme law of the land, and is actually a bought and paid for, and fraud upon the court exists. This is an inferior court of limited jurisdiction and derogation of common law. The respondent in error is entitled due process of law as affirmed by Article 5 and Amendment, and due process of law and law of the land have the same meaning, which is common law, and this court is operating in derogation of common law. And there's court cases that talk about it. And your inferior court of limited jurisdiction is not capable of receiving Article 3 authority. This so-called court is an administrative court, and this administrative court is working for the executive branch. An inferior court of limited jurisdiction is not capable of receiving Article 3 authority, and an inferior court of limited jurisdiction is incompetent to deal with any issue involving life, liberty, or property. And according to John Locke, an inferior court of limited jurisdiction is a tyrant, all of which is a denial of due process of law. Denials of due process of law deprives the plaintiff's inferior court of limited jurisdiction / executive agency of subject matter jurisdiction. Administrative courts masquerading as judicial officers cannot do anything judicial, like issue orders, convictions, or judgments. And that's all it said, really. I guess I should have threw in some stuff. They're personally liable in their private capacity. But, and then the certificate of service, demand to disqualify the judge, and these are the criminal complaints. I guess there was only 78. I thought there was over 100.
So you asked a state judge to file, or a county judge, or
it was a district judge.
District.
Unlawful appropriation. They stole my property.
This is the request for taxation.
Yeah, the suit that they filed against me. See right here? That's the fake judge, the new fake judge.
Yeah, so it's a second judge.
Yeah.
So they haven't learned their lesson?
Well, they held a show trial in December, and the clerk sent me a letter saying that if I wanted a copy of the order, I had to pay her $5, which tells me that had nothing to do with me, because if it had anything to do with me, they would have just mailed it to me. Right?
Right. In other words, you were just a private citizen, a private man.
So they didn't want anything to do with me. Let's see here. Wow, this is the first one I sent. Yeah, my only defect there is I should have told him he's personally liable in his private capacity. And then I could have actually, but, they have me down as a vexatious litigant in Texas, and so I have to go see this chief administrative judge fucking whore. I ought to just fucking dump on his ass.
And he's saying he wants to be the target. right?
I guess he does. Yeah.
Right.
See, there's the McGuy's. That's the judge that recused himself after I filed this his statement. That's the first judge right here.
I didn't see an oath to the Constitution. I might have missed it, but he only promised to do his job.
There's a
as
statement
judge. Right. He just promised to do his job as a judge.
right there.
Right, but that's there it is.
Yeah.
We'll do my
Preserve,
best.
protect, defend the Constitution and laws of the United States and of the state. So help me God.
Okay. There it is.
Yeah.
And when he fails to have the ability to uphold his oath, that's why it's perjury.
Yeah, this one's a lot shorter. I wasn't showing this one online, so I had to add it. And so I'm going to go through it here a little bit. But that one, yeah, it was served by certified mail. I'll be back in a sec.
No. It's criminal procedure, Rule 4. It says if your complaint affidavits there's a crime committed, the judge must issue an arrest warrant, blah, blah, blah. I do that. The judge never issues arrest warrants.
So when he doesn't, the next thing to do is you have to file complaints to get him removed.
The judge that didn't do anything?
That's what Glenn is saying he did. Demand, look, right there.
Yeah, I mean,
Demand to disqualify the judge. They think at any time if we don't keep moving, then they win.
I would disqualify 50 judges in the last 10 years. See, I mean, that's why they've been taking money out of Social Security for garnishment for 7 years, and I filed stuff from here to Texas trying to get, and they just,
Right. So, but you have
like that 2073 for false statements and stuff. I put that in the modifying civil complaint, showing my ex is lying.
Yeah. Did you report crimes to the FBI?
Well, I said no. See, no.
No, you have to.
I would
That's
send
what-
that civil complaint to Rockville County, listing the
It's
the
a
criminal
You have to.
complaints.
Yeah. You have to go federal.
Oh, well, I would try federal court too.
No.
With the
Report.
2073
No. Report it to federal.
agencies like FBI and see,
Yes.
that's
That's what he does. Federal. The FBI.
the controller in currency.
The
blah, blah, blah.
Department of
Depending-
Department of Justice, the Provost Marshal. It's a pain, but you just have to focus and do it, and then you can sit back and it's like you sent a missile. You can forget about it. It took his what he filed for me. It took about 5 or 6 months, 7 months, and then the people lost their jobs.
Yeah, sometimes it takes time.
Yeah, you can't expect them to get to it right away. There's
No.
always a lag time.
Who lost their jobs?
The chief of police of the
Oh,
local
right.
municipality
Right.
and the state commissioner of health services.
Oh, really? Okay, just those two?
That's that I know of.
Right. Yep. Okay. Anyways, this was the first one with the first judge. And it was 1 page. Well, 2 pages with the declaration. And that judge was gone, and they had a new judge. So I think I'm going to start sending a demand for costs. Tell them I want a monster box. Give them an address to send it to. 2 monster boxes. See, and this is how I build a case. I have the green card. This is the USPS website showing it was delivered. See what I'm saying? So that's what happened in that case. But we were actually talking about the Form 1020. How did we get sidetracked?
I was invited to join Trump and Wildwood next Saturday.
And this is the criminal complaint that I filed into the case. Yeah, I guess we were talking about the criminal complaints. That's how we got sidetracked. So this is one that I don't put file into the case. I'll just send it to the FBI, the Provost Marshal General, and
that was January, so it was fairly recent. It was just a few months ago.
Right. Some of them I've already sent off. Some of them are like there's some in those boxes. Some of them I did here. Some of them are in those boxes. I'm doing some for oh, there we go. This is Thomas Hall. Yeah, this is the criminal complaint with the that I did with Thomas Hall, who's the chief counsel. The chief counsel's always the easiest one to go after because he's deemed to know the law. And so this is wire fraud, and this is Capital One Bank, and so it's a lot of it's similar. Capital One Bank and the Capital One's credit cards that we talked about, right? And then the Form 1020, final notice of default. See if there's any yeah, so anyways, this is the Form 1020. This is Capital One, and this is why it's wire fraud. And I should have accused him of mail fraud too. But we'll go down we'll go past the Form 1020 stuff. Right here. Right there. That's the wire fraud. And a bunch of those are in those boxes right now. Every member of the board of directors is getting one. That's why it's wire fraud. They're showing the balance still there, showing that I still owe money when they're supposed to discharge it. And here's the evidence of mail fraud, March 1st, 2024. So, but this is evidence that I got them on the run. We place a disagreement code with the resolution of dispute on your credit file with the major credit reporting agencies. So I got them on the run.
So they did respond.
Yeah, but it's supposed to discharge it. It's supposed to discharge it. That's not negotiable. Anyways. So I think that once I get all of these done and I file that with the bar grievance with the attorney, I think that's when it'll disappear. I went and did this with the North Texas Toll Road Authority, the Form 1020, and I invited their chief counsel, and they completely ignored everything until I bar grieved their chief counsel. And then it all went silent.
I think I'm going to just start with that, like you said, just do the chief counsel.
You got to invite the lawyers.
It's brilliant.
And the lawyers are officers of the court. And it's like 107 said. I don't know if you heard that part, but he said that the lawyers, their bar license means that they have to tell the truth to the court. And if they get caught, you know, that gets them in trouble if they don't do the honorable thing with the court. You see what I'm saying? And so another good example is I had lawyers that a demand letter. I got a demand letter one time over a credit card debt that was like $29,000, right? And I got a demand letter. And so what I did was a demand letter it basically says, we're going to sue your ass off, pay it all now, or we're going to sue you. And so I sent them a letter back by registered mail, and I said, sure, no problem. You can sue me, but I intend to prove in court that you didn't loan me anything. And I intend to get an officer of the bank and a CPA on the stand, and I intend to ask them these 160 questions right here, taken from Tom Shaw's book, and prove you didn't loan me anything. And, oh, by the way, if you want to have an officer of the bank sign this one-page affidavit saying you actually did loan me a depositor's money, which is a felony, by the way, then I'll reconsider my position. And 3 months later, I got a statement back on that account showing that it had been paid off.
Wow.
Yeah. And the reason is that the lawyers are officers of the court. And if they was to bring a lawsuit against me, and it came out that I had sent them that and given them an out, all they had to do is give me and show that get an officer of the bank to sign this one-page affidavit saying that they'd loaned me a depositor's money, and if they still filed that lawsuit, they'd get disbarred over that one. So, anyways, yeah, no shit. Yeah, and that was Wally Dove's idea too. Wally Dove, I just met him again recently on Telegram. Yeah. Yeah, he's an accountant. And
Bet he's watching his counting his money go out the door.
I guess, I don't know, but I'm sure he's retired. He was my age or older, so I'm sure he's retired, but he lives in Canada. That was his idea. It was brilliant. I got to give him credit. I contacted him, I saw him on Telegram, and then I came back to him and I said, "Are you the same Wally Dove that lives in Ontario?" I used to live in Ontario, and I knew a Wally Dove there. And he came back and he said, "Yeah, that's me." So now I'm going to have to go back and say, "Well, your idea was brilliant about the. I used it and it worked great." Anyways,
And repeat the idea just because.
you got to wait till you get a demand letter from the lawyers. When you get a demand letter over a debt, and it's got to be, I'd say it probably has to be an unsecured debt. Actually, you would have to be unsecured, because if it's a secured debt, they just steal the property.
Right.
They don't even send you a demand letter. You know what I mean?
Right.
So you got to get a demand letter from the
They
lawyers.
foreclose on the property.
That's right. So you got to get a demand letter from the lawyers, and then you send them back a letter and say, "Sure, no problem. You can sue me, but I intend to prove that you didn't loan me anything. And I intend to ask an officer of the bank and a CPA on the stand these 160 questions and prove you didn't loan me anything. And if you want to have an officer of the bank sign this one-page affidavit saying you did loan me a depositor's money, I'll reconsider my position." And that's all. It was like a one-pager.
29K.
Those are the best one.
29K. Bye bye.
Yeah, that's right.
So how does your activities and the lateness of that they claim, I presume you've been in arrears, which is why they're demand, or you're just actually not in arrears and you're just trying to.
This is Capital One. I wasn't in arrears. I saw something online. It was basically, I don't know if it was an unproven theory or if it was something that I think it was more like what Capital One didn't want to go along with, and they're just a bunch of thieves. You know what I mean? Because I think it actually did work, but they're thieves. And so, anyways, I went and sent them. I showed you what I sent them.
Right, but that wasn't because that you just sent that because you saw an outstanding debt on the name and you didn't want to have to work to pay it because it's already been paid. So therefore, like, it wasn't that they were saying we're canceling your card, you owe us this money.
Well, they did. Once I did this, they canceled the card. Everything was no good. It says it right in the letter. Says it right in the letter.
Okay. So Glenn was essentially accusing them of bank fraud, and they said, "Well, since you accused us of that, we're canceling your account."
Basically, yeah. Maybe it wasn't in this one. Maybe it's in another one. I'll bet it is. Let me look here.
So how has the action of Capital One affected the ability to have access to other credit in your situation?
I think I have to let the dust settle and get that the stuff cleaned up, and then I'll probably be able to get more credit. No problem.
I see. Okay.
But right now, they're showing a dispute. They said right on their letter, right?
I see. So they basically said no more Capital One for you.
Yeah.
But they didn't say you didn't pay it. They didn't say you didn't pay
They said there's a dispute. That's
okay.
right.
That's their tongue-in-cheek.
Yeah. This is one of the board of directors. And this is what I sent them. I showed you this, right? Where I did this. accepted for deposit, payable to bearer. So they sent me this. This is a coupon, really. And so I'm saying, okay. And see, there's a 1 cent, there's a stamp right here. And I canceled the stamp. And this was the back right here, accepted for deposit. And they sent me this letter.
I've been told you're supposed to put that on the front of the coupon. The stamp. I'm just telling you, don't. I'm just.
That's what I'm saying, is that there's all sorts of unproven theories, and you never know what's going to work and what's not going to work. They're a bunch of thieves.
I understand you. Obviously.
So we're closing this account because of activity on this or another account is not consistent with our expectations.
You didn't bend over backwards for it.
Please stop using this account immediately and destroy any cards and checks associated with it. You should update any recurring payments you set up. So there you go.
Now it says you'll continue to receive billing statements. Is that happening?
Well, that's why I'm charging them with wire fraud, right?
Okay.
And mail fraud.
I'm just
because they're supposed to discharge it.
Just trying to follow your.
That was over this, right? So then I did the Form 1020 process. Okay, this is the other. There's 2 credit cards, and I did the same thing with both credit cards. Right? And they sent me the same thing, and then I did the Form 1020 process. Right? And they failed to discharge it. So that's a problem for them. I know that works. And so I'm charging them with wire fraud because notice of default and opportunity to cure. So let's just go to the final notice of default. That summarizes everything. Right? This is the final notice of default. Evidence that their intent to engage in multiple felonies. And I don't owe you anything. I owe you nothing. And you're required to discharge this alleged debt under your Uniform Commercial Code 3.603. Have a great day. So there's other ones now that I'm dealing with. There's like I went and got this. See, they keep giving me great evidence.
They can't help themselves.
I tell you.
They voluntarily gave you the evidence. Of course, my pen just died.
This is an email they sent me.
It came back.
So I'm going to have to go after them for wire fraud now. And the board of directors for that bank, I can go after the board of directors now because they tied it all together for me.
It says it's been charged off.
Yep. But if you read what it says, they sold it.
Right. So they went ahead and.
So that's fraud for them to sell it when they're supposed to discharge it.
Right. They told you it was charged off.
Yeah, but they're selling it.
No, I know. I'm following you.
And they're sending me an email. That's wire fraud.
Yeah.
So this is the final notice of default. That's on the one credit card, but both of them are the same. For all the people online.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I used that Brandon Joe Williams online there procedure, and there must have been something I left out or something. This procedure here that I did right here is was one on one of his videos. I think it was him that you're talking about. But maybe there was some defect in it or something, or they're just thieves. You know, I mean, that happens too. They're just thieves. They want you to pay it off 2 or 3 times, right?
Right.
So, anyways. So what I do is I start filing felony criminal complaints, and you don't know how long it's going to take. They could take quite a while. But that's the minor estate. I suppose, you know, you could go into court and you could say, are you looking for the minor estate or are you looking for the man?
They don't answer.
Have you tried that?
In around, yes. Well, I asked them, I said, who is this? I've asked them, yes. Who is being charged? Is it me or is it the name? I didn't use the word minor.
I would say the minor estate.
Well,
they know what they're looking for.
Right. My understanding is that especially in municipal court, in their legal world,
it's only the minor estate.
There's nothing living.
I know, but still, if you ask them and nail them down and get them to admit it, that's going to create a problem for them. They're going to say, "Get him out of here."
Well, they by not answering, then I should have used your silence is acceptance, or basically by them not answering. But again, they have the guns and they're like, sue us. So,
I don't know.
So that's what we have to do.
Well, so it might be easier just to bring it into the federal court.
That's been the answer all along, and I've never done that yet, so this will be my first time.
Yeah. Well, once you do that, they'll never bother you again because they know that's what you're going to do.
We know that answer.
Yeah.
Oh, I did have a question. Assuming I was in a position now where they've already done a full municipal trial for a trespassing, disorderly conduct, found a guilt, entered a sentence, gave a 45-day quote appeal time. Could one remove it to the federal court at that stage, or does it have to be done before they decree any sort of finality in the case?
Well, you can try.
No, I'm just asking.
I don't know. I mean, it's beyond the appeal time. They're going to bring it up. I guarantee you they'll bring it up.
No, I'm talking about what I'm in right now. In other words, I wanted to get some evidence on the record of the police committing perjury. I already have one. I wanted a second one. But then they would, the judge...
It doesn't matter.
The judge would probably at that stage find it a guilty.
What has he done? Remember, what did he do when you wanted to get the bishop on there? We don't care what you say, so you don't have to testify.
Right.
It has nothing to do with the truth or justice or anything.
But when it says remove, okay, so it doesn't matter because he's already violated the rights. He'll do it one more time. But I was thinking to get additional evidence before I go and do the removal. Am I risking anything?
It's up to you.
No,
I wouldn't bother with it. They're nothing but a bunch of thieves and pirates. What I do when I do these criminal complaints, by the way, see, you notice how there's like 2 or 3 spaces in here? I try and set them up so that all of the signatures are on one page and there's nothing else on that page. So then what I can do is I can change this one to all the other names on the board of directors, and I just make a color copy of this one, and I use the same one all the time. So I don't have to pay for as many notaries. Saves a lot of money, let me tell you.
Yeah, because he's just notarizing your signature. It doesn't matter what the document is.
Oh, right. You're right. Yeah, it
But
doesn't matter.
actually, when I go to the bank to do it, they
Uh-huh.
actually put it in the book, the name of the.
That's fine.
So I don't want to do anything that they might claim is fraud.
I wouldn't. That's what I'd try and do, and he puts it in a book too. But I'll usually take in, maybe, like he lets me. It's my private mailbox, so he'll let me do up to 10 without charging me anything because I have the mailbox. And so I'll bring in like maybe half a dozen or something like that, 4 or 6. And we'll do them all at once, and then he'll just list them as, I don't know if he says how many criminal complaints. I don't really pay any attention to it, and I don't really worry about it. I don't think anybody looks him up. All he's doing is witnessing.
A signature.
Yeah, it's an acknowledgement is all it is. Verification. It's a verification.
Understood. Good piece of advice.
This saves a lot of notaries, saves paying for a lot of notaries. And so I kind of just space it out that way. So you see that there's like, that's one space there, but that's probably 2 or 3 spaces. And that might be 2 or 3 spaces there too.
But you do have to have the same number of pages because then that would be a problem.
Yeah, right. Because there's a footer. So this is page 4. And so this one, so you have to have a page 4 before there. And this one would be a page 5. But I've seen other people do it where they'll have half of this page would be empty. I've seen them do it. I don't see a problem with it. As long as you're prepared to, defend it, But I've seen it where other people have done it where this page, half of it would be empty. And then the signatures are on this page.
I got you.
I'm not usually that flagrant. What I'll do is I will, if I have that much space at the end, then I will start up at the top and, add in some extra spaces in here, maybe 1 extra space. So it's a little bit large. You see what I'm saying? And it'll just push it all down.
Understood.
So it won't be noticeable. It'll look like extra space all.
So this is relatively recent.
Well, that's 27th of February.
Right. That's recent.
Yeah.
And this letter you just gave him what was the date? I didn't look on it. That piece of paper.
That one right there?
Yeah.
That was an email I got like yesterday.
Okay. So, and we are in early May of 2024.
All right.
So that's 90 days.
Right.
From when you sent in.
So I'm going to file criminal complaints against the board of directors for that bank for wire fraud and mail fraud I don't know if I can do mail fraud because I haven't received anything through the mail, but wire fraud for sure, and and um, false and fictitious records. You know, as I haven't found any other ones that I can use. If I could, I would.
Well, sitting here today, Glenn, I got an idea. I didn't know how to get the local city solicitor because I felt she was almost untouchable because she always has other people do her business, her dirty work. She never answers anything herself. The local, like I'm asking for
Any lawyer is deemed to know the law, and so and the city solicitor, if she has an assistant that is doing whatever.
No, it's other officials of the city, say a tax assessor, say a community services director, a director of finance, who are statutorily oathed, but they're answering me under their oath, and they're basically denying me something that they're asking money for locally or currency. I'm telling them I don't want to pay. I didn't use the 1020. I was using the Constitution of Article 1, Section 10, Clause 1, gold and silver, which is how I got the free driver's license.
Right.
From the state commissioner of DMV.
Right.
So I believe that the local statutory officers are asking the city solicitor, what do I do? And she's telling them, don't tell them to pay cash. So I just sent them a letter last week under certified mail saying, I hope you're not listening to the city solicitor because you have the oath. So please send me what I want. And now, listening to what you said here today, I'm now going to direct my next demand to her directly.
Absolutely. I'd invite her to it.
That's what I haven't been doing.
Yeah.
That was my point.
And so then what you do is you just file a bar grievance.
Yes.
And
a criminal complaint.
Yeah, you use the criminal complaints as evidence for the bar grievance.
Right. So I do the criminal complaint first.
Yeah.
But I think I'd rather just go directly to the chief counsel of the city because she is going to be most likely to surrender the fastest, because she knows better. The other people don't know. They don't have bar licenses.
Well, they can claim that, but I would accuse them of it anyways.
Well, I'm going to if I don't.
They're supposed to know. They have an oath of office.
That's true.
And so I would, it's like throwing mud against a wall. You never know what's going to stick.
Right. And so, and if I had property that I was paying taxes on locally, I would think that, in here they're 4,000 to 6,000, 8,000, which is a lot of money. But if it's if I have it as an income property, then I do kind of have. Would you agree you have to pay tax on an income property?
Well, I guess it's all in the words.
Okay.
And so income is corporate profits. So if you're going to call it income, but if you're going to call it compensation for labor, that's different. Right. It's all in what you call it.
Right. But if a justifiably, perhaps, if a house or piece, or I guess it's not growing. But basically, if I had a certificate of deposit and that was paying the interest, paying the name interest, in a way, income is being generated because it's passive. It's not labor.
Right.
But if I had a private home that the taxes were 4,000 to 8,000, then the tax assessor and the tax collector both have oaths of office. Right. And I would hit them up, and that's, the 1020 is one way, but the Constitution is another. So
it depends on how the home is titled. Mm-hmm. Okay, if it's under the name of a structure, then that's one thing. But if it's under your name, then that's a minor estate. And I would just clarify that, make sure that they know that that's not a minor estate. I have no intention of of using your Roman cult minor estate for the title on this home, and then I would get into it with them.
Right.
But you got to research the New Jersey codes too. I know in Texas the property has to be rendered. It's in the Texas codes. It says it has to be rendered, and so somebody has to render it
I don't
and
know what that means.
render it for taxation. Here, tax this property.
List it basically.
Yeah, right. Has
Order-
to be rendered.
Order a tax.
Rendering, exactly.
And so if somebody normally buys a home with a mortgage, not knowing what we know now,
Well, with the mortgage, it's a little bit different because technically the mortgage company. Matter of fact, when I first bought property back in the 80s, I bought a house, and there was I remember a form in the closing documents that said I agreed to pay the property taxes. And if you think about it, that's because technically the mortgage company owns the property until you pay it off, so they're liable for the property taxes, and they were dumping it off on me,
right, you agreed to it.
and I agreed to it. That's right.
Which in today's world, we could discharge the mortgage potentially with one of these two,
Yeah, but so
and basically get there the same way.
I'm helping someone in Texas doing that, but that's not going to be. Oh, I see. That's not going to be. They're not going to just roll over. I'm doing it with Toyota, and they're playing stupid. They're playing hard to get, and
pushing back.
yeah, and so that's why I'm filing the wire fraud charges again. It's very similar to this because they're showing online that I still owe the money, and they're supposed to do a release of lien, and I've got their lawyers. I've got two lawyers, chief counsel, the general counsel, and the deputy general counsel. So
Right. So the Toyota's claiming Toyota Finance or whomever loaned the money for the car, therefore they own the car until such time it's paid off. And your point is that it was paid the day you.
Well, yes and no. But I sent them the 1020. I did the 1020 process, and tell me what to pay. I'll pay it. Tell me what to pay. And they didn't respond. Matter of fact, with Toyota, they sent me a letter saying, we know about all these scams. Well, they didn't use the word scams, but they called it a fraud. And we know about these fraudulent, okay,
Claims.
great. They know about it. Then that's good. So they know that they're supposed to, it's an offer to pay. and they know that their so-called loan is a fraud. Anyways.
Now,
So here.
so when
Right here, general counsel.
when you obtained that financing, did you offer them any sort of government number, or did they give it to you without that?
They always insist on a social security number. Anyways, first of all, in Texas, and Toyota's in Texas,
What we're looking at here is
a demand to release lien.
demand to release lien.
Yeah, under Texas Penal Code, right here.
This is the wire fraud.
Yeah, that's the general counsel for Capital One.
Right.
So this one
This
is
was Toyota.
under Texas
Oh,
Penal
it's different.
Code.
That was
I thought
Toyota,
you
right?
got it off the same pile.
I did.
Yeah, so it's this, right?
No, it's not.
Okay.
There's a bunch of them there. As you can tell, there's a whole bunch of them. If you want the one for Sandra Phillips Rogers, this is,
Oh, these are not all the same.
they're not all the same.
Oh, okay, forgive me. I'm sorry. I was just trying to follow you.
If you go to Texas Penal Code 32.49, refusal to execute release of fraudulent lien or claim. And so it's a Class A misdemeanor if they refuse to execute the release of the lien.
Talking to the mic so they can hear you.
Under Texas Penal Code 32.49, it's a Class A misdemeanor if they refuse to execute the lien, but I have to send them a notice So I sent them a notice right here, right?
Notice and demand.
Demand to release fraudulent lien, right there.
Mm-hmm.
Demand to release lien. I sent it to their chief counsel. I sent it to their CEO. I sent it to their chief financial officer and their deputy chief counsel. And so you got to use the codes again. So this is Texas Penal Code 32.49. And so I'm telling them I hereby demand a release of lien be executed, right? And they failed to do it. And here's a letter they sent. If you go to the next page after that, it says, please be advised that the documents such as no valid form of payment that were submitted to TFS and claim to satisfy your financial obligation due to TFS are not a valid form of payment to TFS, do not create any obligation on the part of TFS, and are not recognized in any court of law in the United States. We are familiar with the legal theory set forth in your letter. Okay, great. Anyways, fraud control department. So they're demanding payment. So then I say, okay, no problem. Tell me what to pay. And only your lawyers can answer.
You told them that.
That's
Only
what the Form
lawyers-
1020 does.
Okay, I need to study that.
That's what the Form 1020 does.
Only attorneys can answer.
Yeah.
And that actually
And
would
then-
be a good form for me to send to the non-lawyer statutory officer who's asking for payment from me,
Absolutely.
because then that gives them an out, and they can go to their counsel and say, I'm not allowed to answer this, you have to.
That's right.
It puts it in
course.
the attorneys,
Of
the
course.
city solicitors'
Of course.
hot potato now.
This is their website, and it shows that I owe $14,000. And so I'm telling them it's wire fraud. That's what this is, wire fraud.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? Anyways,
Yeah, this is the same one.
it's the same one. Yeah.
Yeah, you sure you build a good case.
Yeah. Well. So we'll see. But I think that once I file the bar grievances with the lawyers, then they'll have to do something.
That's Toyota.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
Some of them are Toyota. Some of those are Capital
I
One.
sorted them out there, so. Because
Right.
I thought they were all the same too.
Yeah. No, there's a mixture.
Yeah.
Toyota is not a bank, so they're not regulated by the controller of the currency. They're regulated by the Consumer Finance Protection Board or whatever it's called.
Makes
You see
sense.
what I'm saying?
Makes sense.
So I send the criminal complaints. I'll send it to the FBI. I'll send it to the Provost Marshal General. I'll send it to the state police, but then I'll also send it to the Consumer Finance Protection, wherever that is. And each state, there's actually federal, but each state has their own office. I'll be back in a second.
Texas Attorney General has my child support arrears balance on their website.
There you go.
Ooh, so that's right there, right? Fraud.
Sounds like it.
What? Wire fraud. See,
You just have to. It's hard to stay focused because they're committing crimes on a daily basis against us.
Trump's going to be in Wildwood next Saturday, the 11th. Trump's going to be in Wildwood the 11th, May 11th.
Is that right?
Yep.
Wow, that's not too far from here either, is it?
It's like, what, half hour, whatever?
Yeah.
40 minutes.
Yeah, he's asking for RSVP. Give me a donation. I got an RSVP. I gotta start donating to him again. Once I get something straightened out on my side. It's easier. Social Security, Attorney General, my ex.
So, anyways, damn, this phone is hot. It's 12:30. Do we want to break for lunch?
I have to do some errands between. I won't be eating lunch today with you guys.
Okay, well, we can stay here and just have something if you want. Do you want to stay here and have something?
So I have to go do some errands from, we're coming up on the summer season.
We stayed for lunch last time.
So we'll be back at 2.
Yeah, it's 12:30, so we'll be back at 2. We'll reconvene at 2 o'clock. So thanks for watching, everybody.
Thank you.
This is about my criminal complaints. This afternoon, we'll start on fake money. Well, I got a presentation on fake money. I'm not sure if I'll even get it all done this afternoon. We'll see. But I have a presentation on fake money. It's everything that they do is because of the fake money. And so all of the fraud, all of the kangaroo courts, everything that's going on nowadays, all the injustice is because of the fake money.
There's no common law does not have fake money.
Common law does not have fake money. No. But that's not to say that you cannot barter, but the lawful money has to be, and the courts have to operate with lawful money only. They can only operate in lawful money.
Really?
If you want real justice, it's got to be real money.
Wow.
See what I'm saying?
So there are no real courts.
No, that's all commercial.
It's all commercial.
Yeah.
I can't wait for 2 o'clock.
Yeah, so we'll go through that. It actually goes through a lot of history, and we'll go through that. And
I'm excited about that. It's going to be a good one. Have you done this subject yet in total on your website?
not really. No,
So
this
will
is
be a really good extensive video.
yeah. Well, that's why I'm saying I'm not sure we're going to be able to get through the whole thing, because there's quite a few slides, and we'll see. It's I don't like to rush through it.
Yeah.
Because people need to digest it. But as with all of my videos, there's a PowerPoint presentation. Like with this one, there's no PowerPoint because we talked about criminal complaints. But with with most of my videos that have PowerPoint presentations, I make a PowerPoint presentation into a PDF file. And so you'll be able to go into the show notes like we talked about earlier. You go into the show notes and you'll find a link to the PDF file, so you can download the PDF file and have access to all those court citations that are in the PowerPoint presentation, and you can do your own research and all the rest of it if you want.
Well said.
But beyond that, sometimes I get moving and I go really quick, but you can go back and review those PowerPoint presentations just by going into the show notes and downloading that PDF file.
I can go at my own pace.
And you go at your own pace then. Yeah, that's right.
See it quick.
But anyway, so we're going to adjourn for the morning, and we'll be back this afternoon about 2 o'clock. And so we'll see you then.